Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. Okay, so in this video, we're going to do something really fun, and I think you're going to like it a lot. So I have my practice fabric still loaded. So this is not a quilt. It's not nicely ironed. I know you don't like any of those things, but it's just a piece that I wanted to practice and play on because I want to practice some free motion skills. And here I have some black and red thread. This is an omni variegated thread, which I love. And it's kind of reminds me of a ladybug, but that's beside the point. But anyway, so I have that loaded in so that we'll be able to see it really nice on this light gray flannel that's loaded. So on my screen from a prior video, I set an area. And I set this area using 2-corner. And now I want to put a design in that I can practice free motioning around. So what I'm going to do is go up to File, and I'm going to go to Design, and I'm going to Open. And when this comes up, we have some options. We normally go to Continuous Line and do Edge to Edge. And so this time instead, what I'm going to do is go to Blocks. And what I want to do is to stitch out a grid that I can practice my free motion skills within. So if I come down here, I'll find a grid. There's a 2x2 grid. There's a grid 4, which is 4x4, 6x6, 8x8, etc. We're going to choose the 4x4. So it's called Grid Square 4. That's what that one is called. And I'm going to hit Open. And now it put it all the way off to the side. So we know what to do. We go up to the top left to where that pink dot is. We put our crosshairs there by moving the machine. We go up to Modify. We reposition and we hit top left, and it drops it right where we want it to be in the top left. Well, the problem is when I look at that square, that grid, and I come down to my machine and I move around, that's a really tiny little grid with very small movements. So I want to make it bigger. So what I'm going to do is take that one grid that I have on there, and I'm going to go to Resize. No, I'm not going to go to Resize. I am going to go to Resize. And on Resize, I'm going to hit down here where it says +4. I'm just going to make it bigger. Oops, I have to undo that. Okay, so I'm back to where I was. So forget I said that. So here's where it's 4. To resize something, I want the height and width to both move at the same rate. So I'm going to lock my height and width. So they're going to stay in proportion. Then if I hit this plus sign, it will start to make my grid bigger. And I want it to be maybe about, I'm at 8 instead of 4. So that gives me bigger squares to practice in. I'm not good enough to use those original size squares, so I want to use bigger squares so that I can practice. I'm moving the machine to put the crosshairs back at that pink dot. And now I'm going to go back to reposition, and I'm going to hit top left. And it dropped it right back in the square, right where I want it to be, snug in my area. So now if I go to repeat, and I want to fill up that row so that I can practice some free motion, I'm going to hit plus horizontal, plus horizontal, plus horizontal, plus horizontal. So that gives me lots of area to practice. And since I'm free motioning, I'm not going to worry about this piece that's outside of the area because the computer's not going to go there because I'm the computer on this one because it's just a free motion project. So that's what my first row is going to look like. Now I'm going to actually stitch this out. So I still want to do a baseline so that it doesn't, if you look right in here, you see there's red and green dots right on top of each other. So I don't want it to start and stop. So if I hit baseline, maybe those dots go away. And that's what I'm hoping for. So we're going to see what happens because we're going to stitch that out here in just a second. But before we do that, I also want to practice some pebbling or maybe some other skills. So I'm going to come up to File. I'm going to go to Design, Open. I'm still in those blocks. So this time, maybe I want to put some circles in that I can play with. So I'm going to open that. I'm going to move them over into my little work area here. I'm going to go up to Repeat. I'm going to let it stitch out a couple of those so that I have a row of circles that I can try to stitch around or inside of or anywhere I'd like maybe. So we'll baseline that. So now that's one of our rows. And then finally, I'm going to go up to design and open, and I'm going to put some dreaded triangles in. And I know I have some quilts. I do a lot of stuff with chevrons, so I'll want to be able to learn how to quilt around those in a free motion way. So I'm going to move that into my area, and I'm going to modify. Nope, I'm not. I'm going to repeat, and I'm going to add those going across my design. So now I have, you can see that they're kind of, some are grayed out and some are not. I have a grid I can stitch out. Then I have a row of circles I can stitch out. And then I have a row of triangles that I can stitch out. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stitched out, and then I'll be back.